importance of us finding solutions, some of which we may not have developed yet, to help solve our global problems in sustainability has risen and risen to a fervor. And today we have three very influential individuals in this space. We have Kristina Kloberdanz, Mastercard's first Chief Sustainability Officer, Bill Borden, Corporate Vice President of Global Financial Services at Microsoft, and Sabrina Peng, President of Social Good and Green Development at Ant Group. And I'd like to start by asking Sabrina, what is Ant Group's sustainability goals and its strategy towards attaining them over time? Sabrina, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. First of all, it is an absolute honor to participate in the Singapore FinTech Festival representing Ant Group to talk about innovation for sustainability. A very, very important topic you just mentioned is this topic is very close to my heart and also to the heart of our business. Yeah. At Ant Group, going green has always been a strong priority for us since our founding. And we believe technology can and should be used to enable sustainable development. So overall, our sustainability goal is to build a green and sustainable ecosystem, contribute globally to carbon neutrality goals through digital development, and explore new practices in green finance. So this is our goal. So guided by this goal, Ant Group has embarked on a number of actions. So just to give you some examples of specific initiatives we have. So first of all, we call it green responsibility. So in March this year, we pledged to carbon neutral by 2030. So to reach this target, we explore the use of technologies. For example, our carbon metrics blockchain-based SaaS solution to check our carbon reduction process. So the first one will be green responsibilities. The second one will be, we call it green life. So in August 2016, Alipay introduced Ant Forest Green Initiative within the app, the Alipay app, to promote a greener lifestyle and encourage low carbon activities among users. So as of August 2021, so 5 years later, over 600 million people had joined the Ant Forest Green Initiative, planting over 326 million trees in Gansu province and other areas in China, helping reduce 20 million tons of carbon emission. The third one, we call the green finance sector. So we always believe that finance is a main driver to promote green development. So through our associate MyBank, we have been exploring to provide green finance support to SMEs. So offering them small loans for the supply chain loans, and also give them the lower interest rate because those companies, they are really doing business good for the environment and with good environmental track records. So all these initiatives and actions are all echo back to our goals. So this is pretty much simple sharing for our goals for Ant Groups.
Thanks, Sabrina. Thanks for sharing that. You know, what's really fascinating is that the issue that we're all facing together as a global challenge is important because there are different aspects from different parts of the world that are contributing towards a solution. And I'm just very curious, and I'm sure our audience is curious to understand also, is there, from the point of view where China's coming in from, new technologies, whether digital or deep tech, that is a focus for Ant Financial in the solution? Is there a particular area of focus or interest?
Yes, so like earlier I mentioned, we always believe in technology. Yeah, technology should be and also must be playing a critical role in this big topic. So I mentioned now earlier about a new SaaS product we just launched. So actually this related to the carbon neutrality pledge I mentioned. So when we, the Ant Group, laid out our carbon neutrality roadmap earlier this year, we also made the commitment to explore the application of innovative technologies in achieving these goals. So the Ant Chain, so Ant Chain is part of Ant Group, so launched a software as a service SaaS product called Carbon Metrics to help business manage their carbon impact throughout the full carbon life cycle. I think this is a very new initiative in this whole industry because businesses have long struggled with the challenges in managing their carbon impacts, including how the low management efficiency, lack of qualified management tools, and the difficulties checking and ensuring the authenticity of carbon offset activities. So this carbon metrics product marks a step further in our efforts, and we hope it can help businesses tackle common challenges in enterprise carbon management. So it provides a one-stop shop by aggregating and visualizing companies' carbon data, but also enables third-party environmental institutions to conduct tamper-proof audits and certify carbon neutrality activities remotely. So we always believe in new technology, especially blockchain. So that's why we just launched this SaaS program. And also it's just Ant Group ourselves, because we pledged to that goals, and we are using this carbon metrics platform for our own carbon management now. And we hope this will help a lot of other companies, they have the same goals like us.
That's very interesting. I mean, what you touched on was the authenticity and using technologies such as DLT or blockchain and the fact that you're using it yourselves as well is very interesting to hear. We have time for one more question, and I'm very curious to understand from your perspective. You know, the challenges presented requires more collaboration with many different types of organizations. It can't just be one company doing it, and it's not just one industry either, or even private or public sector together. Where does Ant Group lie in the collaboration space and trying to have a combined solution with other entities?
Sam, can I agree with you more? I think the Ant Forest I mentioned earlier would be a great example. The success of this initiative is made possible by motivating people to collaborate as a community to make a difference. And it has since grown and expanded to a new level driven by wider industry level collaborations among businesses and internationally. It has been adopted and proven a success in the Philippines as well. And for us, actually, the story started in August 2016. 5 years ago, we asked ourselves back then, Alipay has hundreds of millions of users. How could we encourage users to make carbon smart choices in their daily lives? Because we are not only provide financial services, we are a lifestyle platform. In each one of them does a little every day, then it will add up to something meaningful. So that's a very initial thought at that time. So a group of our employees came up with the idea of making the impact of our users' green choices tangible, so that our users can see and touch the bit of green they have helped create. So this is very important because you do something, you can see and touch it. So we invented something called green energy points. So the team started working on this, we call a mini program in Alipay app. It's non-profit. So we gave the name Ant Forest, so users can turn their carbon smart choices, such as taking the bus instead of driving to work, or buying a more efficient air conditioner. So converting these daily actions into green energy points, which they can just collect it in this mini app and then donate it for reforestation efforts in the arid areas in China, or used for wildlife conservation in protected lands. So this idea is actually very simple, right? So it's been a little over 5 years. Just I mentioned, the beginning, and we didn't expect, till today, just 5 years later, so many users, over 600 million users, has participating, and together they are low carbon lifestyle choices translated into the planting of over 326 million trees. That's quite a number. So proud of our users and partners. They do this together. And this also supported the protection of habitats for over 1,500 species in 18 protected areas in China. So this, I think, is a great example to show just this is not just users, it's every sectors, they work together. So the efforts, if it's just one company, Ant Forest do this or Ant Group do this, will be very limited, because it's all the brands they participate in. We collaborate with the NGOs, and also a lot of like the scientists, they tell us how to do it in a scientific way in the arid areas, because it's a great challenge to plant trees there. And a lot of private sectors, they also just collaborate with us. So we together to encourage our customers, 600 million customers, to make the carbon smart choices. So now we have more than 100 brands, including like the chain restaurants, home appliance makers, and the food delivery companies. They are working with Ant Forest to offer their customer low carbon lifestyle choices. And 8 NGOs, they have partnered with us for more than 5 years. We together planting trees and protect the habitat.
Right.
So and also very interesting thing is in June 2019, the Philippines leading mobile wallet called Gcash. Yeah. They just inspired by this story, they just introduced Gcash Forest. So it's pretty similar, the idea, but they just add the new element of the local culture, and it's very successful too. So as I know, Gcash Forest was very successful and attracted 6.7 million users in less than 2 years.
That's a great story. Yeah.
Yeah. Help our users, the users in Gcash, right. they like this, like the users in China are the same. Yeah.
Well, Sabrina, thanks for sharing that. I think that is a great story to end our little chat regarding this. The example that you described, how it ended. Who would have thought financial services or lifestyle type of effort would lead to actual planting of that many trees in the world, and lead by example for others to also try and do. I think it's a perfect combination of the innovative and creative idea, and then the execution of it that translates into something that can connect two completely different things together, as you mentioned. So we have Bill Borden from Microsoft. He's the Corporate VP Worldwide Financial Services, and Kristina Kloberdanz from Mastercard, Chief Sustainability Officer over there, joining us. And I wanted to just ask them, what are your organization's sustainability goals? And what is the strategy towards getting to them briefly? And if I might ask Kristina first to start us off.
Sure. Thanks so much, Sang. It's a pleasure to be here. And for Mastercard, our overall sustainability mission is to build a more inclusive and a sustainable digital economy. And if you think about Mastercard, historically, that has been focused on financial inclusion and inclusive growth. And we had set a target to move 500 million people into the formal economy by 2020. And we did that last year, and then doubled down for another 500 million. So that's 1 billion people now by 2025, which is our goal. We've learned a lot as we've worked in this area of financial inclusion and inclusive growth, and we're turning those learnings to climate and environment. And so this is something that our own environmental footprint is not quite the size of some others because we're a payments and a technology company, but we've done the things like set our science-based targets, 100% renewable energy. We've set our net zero target. We tied our executive compensation to our ESG goals. And earlier this year, we issued our first sustainability bond linking our financing. So there's a lot that we're focused on, and I'm looking forward to this discussion today.
Thanks, Kristina. And the breadth of reach, even if we think it's not directly tied to some of the sustainability issues, is one of the key items that I'd like to chat with both of you. Bill, perhaps you can share as well from your angle.
Sure. Thanks, Sang, and appreciate you having me. And Kristina, great to be on a panel with you to discuss this further. Look, sustainability has been, part of Microsoft's history and DNA for quite some time. It's been foundational to how we think about our product development and how we think about reinventing our products and fueling innovation across product development. And so as we've addressed and continue to look at sustainability, we view this as a way to support many complex issues that impact us globally and societally. And we've approached those with kind of a disciplined approach. Just like we did with data privacy and that we're doing right now with ethical development around artificial intelligence. And so our approach is to be very grounded in principles. And we've set out kind of 7 principles that are driving our approach to sustainability. The first one being, grounding our approach in science and math, right? We'll continually look at the best available science, the most accurate math, as we apply that to the next set of principles that we're focused on, which is taking responsibility for our carbon footprint. That's number 2. And so we've been very clear about our approach and responsibility for reducing emissions. And so we've laid out some very large targets for us to achieve and overachieve over time. And so by 2030, we're looking at cutting our emissions in half and removing our carbon footprint that we emit each year. So we've expressed that as a pledge to be carbon negative, water positive, and zero waste by 2030, and a promise to be carbon negative since the foundation of our company in 1975 by 2050. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is investing in carbon reduction and removal technologies. So the technologies to allow us to achieve these goals don't exist today. So we need to invest in those technologies and seed investment in those technologies. So we're deploying a $1 billion of our own capital in the name of climate innovation. And we're going to fund the acceleration and development of carbon reduction and removal technologies by investing in companies and startup organizations that are focused on this. So that's element number 3. Number 4 is the idea of empowering our employees and customers around the world to help in this process. Being a technology provider and a hyperscaler cloud services provider, we can indeed provide information and technology to help our customers, our suppliers, to focus their efforts as part of being a part of our supply chain and customer network overall to collectively support the reduction of carbon. So that's a focus. The 5th point is around ensuring transparency. And as we all know, that's the challenge, right? How do we have transparency in terms of how we look at measuring, monitoring, reporting, and actually showing results of the efforts and the work around that? So how do we have capabilities, tools, and technologies to support that? So we're going to work on that. Number 6 is using the voice of carbon-related public policy issues. So how do we bring our muscle and our approach to the industry to actually work on policy and policy initiatives to actually accelerate carbon reduction and the removal opportunities that we can all collectively work on within our jurisdictions and within the countries we operate in and impact globally how we approach the policy decisions. And then lastly, number 7 is enlisting our employees and the passion of our employees around this. So how do we recognize our employees in terms of how they're advancing their work around our technologies, how they're working with our customers, how we're enabling them to create opportunities overall. So those are the principles that we'll focus on to actually drive our perspectives around how we work with global community and how we drive our specific goals.
That's really great to hear, Bill. And I really appreciate the principle-driven approach that Microsoft is taking here. You know, I myself has started a grassroots movement called the Innovation by Sustainability Alliance. And we are too at the same level based on principles and a set of values, and created a manifesto that we're trying to propagate around the world. But totally agree with that approach. And, you know, hearing about other existential challenges such as ethical AI and other large things that Microsoft is trying to tackle, it's good to hear that there's a structured framework in which such a large organization can actually make a move and impact in the world on these large topics. Going into a little bit of the technology and the innovation around, if I could just ask, you know, in what is one technology innovation that you're focused on or have a great interest in? Perhaps I could ask Kristina what that would be right now.
Sure. You know, it's interesting, Bill, it's fantastic. I always, in the sustainability field, we're always looking to benchmark with peers and to understand what's happening. And whenever I'm asked, you know, who's kind of the gold standard, it's usually my answer is Microsoft. So it's fantastic to hear what you're doing. But interesting, when we think about Mastercard, we have this unique reach to nearly 3 billion cardholders. And those cards are actually issued through 20,000 banks and issuers. And those 3 billion cardholders use those cards at 70 million merchants and retailers. So we actually have this really unique opportunity to help shift consumer consumption, consumer choice, and behavior, because we know if society continues on the patterns that we're on, we're going to deplete the natural resources of the planet. So when you ask about one technology, one that comes to mind is we actually partnered with a fintech out of the Nordics called Economy, and we've created our Mastercard carbon calculator, which we actually have on our network now, and all of our 20,000 banks can issue that to their customers. So if you think about the idea of when you use your Mastercard, you see on your bank app, you know, the cost of everything that you purchased. Well, imagine then not just seeing the financial cost, but seeing the carbon cost of your impact. So this is the beginning stages of awareness. We're taking these big things like, you know, carbon neutrality and net zero and all that companies and countries are making, but ultimately we can't get there as a world without individuals playing the role too. So we're at that stage of awareness, but also beginning to then enable and incentivize individuals to make different choices and ultimately then compensate for their own environmental impact. And so I like it to the idea of, remember before we had wearables that said how many steps in a day, you know, you were taking. We didn't know that 10,000, you know, was a threshold or something before you went in and there were calories on, you know, the fast food menu. Now, did it change everyone? A choice of what but no, but you start to become aware. And so when that can shift our culture, so that's one of the things that we're really looking at. And Bill mentioned, a really important point earlier, is that the technology that we need to solve the climate issues that we have doesn't exist today. And so we just recently announced our first sustainability innovation lab in the Nordics. And, you know, it's threefold. It's for investing in R&D for climate solutions, co-creating solutions with fintechs, entrepreneurs, and other partners, and then ensuring the customer delivery of those solutions as well. So I kind of stretched your answer, but I gave you one solution and then a nod to more.
No, I love it. And, you know, I've always been preaching and telling people that technology and innovation alone isn't going to do it. It's also going to require some behavioral change from us, the people. And using the technology in a mix to nudge us towards there is an awesome thing. And I really love that answer. I was wondering if Bill could also share from his point of view from a technology company, what would you be looking at?
Yeah, and Kristina, picking up on your conversation, you know, at the core of it was data, as you mentioned, right? Collecting data, whether it's through a wearable or collecting data around how you're doing institutionally. That's really at the heart of the matter, right? This is a challenging problem, but to define the problem, to actually understand it, it's about how do you interpret data, and the mass of data is huge, right? We're generating and capturing more data than any point in human history, right? And that data is coming from IoT devices, as you were referring to, Kristina. It's coming from the idea that we can now capture geospatial data, we can capture huge amounts of weather data. And so we can capture all this data, and the opportunity is how can we interpret it and actually find ways to actually determine what we should do about the data to react to it, not just react to it, but be proactive with it. And so that leads you to, the power of compute, right? Hyperscale compute technologies, big data technologies, the ability to apply natural language and AI tools to actually help us interpret the data in a factual way so that we can actually be proactive and actually drive the right solutions is what the challenge is. And that's why we're so excited, right, around the potential of the technologies that we're bringing to market to work with partner companies and to support other technology companies that are focused in this space with that compute power, that data power to actually get at some of these solutions. And it's interesting that the industry that I serve is financial services. That's what I lead for Microsoft. And in financial services, a lot of this technology is being used to kind of look at investment risk and resilience risk, right? It's about managing risk to determine how you invest and how you apply capital. And what's exciting is new ideas and thoughts around coming up with products and services to actually allow visibility, to allow people who want to invest, to allow people who want to distribute capital in ways that reward the opportunities that are focused on actually really driving the solutions in market. And so we're witnessing a really interesting point in time around the use of technologies to create products and services to drive the momentum around how do we invest in the right opportunities, provide capital to the right opportunities, provide capital to the right technology organizations that are going to help us lead to these long-term solutions, and to come up with a visibility around that, all again centered on the interpretation and analysis of data.
I'll just jump in on one thing that Bill said. I mean, this really is, the data underpins it all. And if you think about what, Bill just said, and then you think about the 3 billion cardholders and the transactions, the data that Mastercard has, as well. And that's anonymized, but it is the use of that data and what we can do with that data. And so I do completely agree that it's a critically important, but an exciting, opportunity that we're all, engaged in tackling.
Yeah, I used to think, so data kind of shed light on the issue and prevented people from pretending that they didn't believe or know what was really going on with their challenges. That chapter has closed. Now the data is more of a, if you will, a navigator of a compass that'll tell us how and where to go and divert our efforts and resources in. And it's just going to get better and better attenuated with the technology that Bill is talking about, where it becomes more and more real time and more accurate of a navigation device for us. Unsurprisingly, we're running out of time soon. So I do want to ask this one question to both of you, because I myself am very curious. If there is one large challenge or issue you see in your world that's holding you back in your pathway to attaining your goals, what would that be? Maybe I can ask Bill that question first.
Sure. Fundamentally, if you break the challenge down and to be able to record, report, and then work on actions to reduce emissions and put programs in place to drive it, right? It's the standardization around how we record data and have standards around how we report out on data. We've got to have a consistent way that we talk about this with clarity and with trust that we're all talking about and engaging and defining the problem in the same way. And so I think the work that's going on around the standardization around how we define what we're measuring and how we measure it in a consistent way, so that when we talk about the notion of carbon math and scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions, and are we really talking about being what carbon neutral really means, right? Or are we actually looking to try to reduce emissions? It's all of these things that should drive definition around really doing the work that's driving the reduction of emissions and showing that it's working, and not just talking about it with fluff and talking about it with this is what we're doing. We've set up a fund and therefore it's working, right? No, it's how we're really measuring and how we're really sustaining it. And that's why we spent so much time thinking about tools to help ourselves on how we measure and report and look at our reduction strategies, and help our customers do that. And that's why we recently launched the Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability, to actually start taking what we've learned internally around our tools to actually measure and drive a dashboard for success and measurement to actually help our customers do that. And so that's what we're really focused on right now in terms of getting to those standards, working with bodies around the world to actually focus on standardization.
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly and say, completely agree with what Bill said. I mean, to date, everyone's definition of their carbon neutrality or their net zero, when you start to get underneath it, it's been different. And so, I think that it's wholeheartedly needed for the standards and the unification, the accountability. And I'll take even a step further to say, bold commitments are absolutely needed, and we've seen that from companies across the board stepping up now, but commitments are insufficient. Now we have to get into the stage of action, and so especially with COP around the corner, and hopefully that is a trigger point that we shift into action. And the way that we're all going to get there, it's bigger than any one of us. And so it's going to take collective action. And there's so many points of intersection between companies within the same sector, multi-sectors. And it's, to me, that's the hurdle right now, is we've got to go from commitments to action, and we need to do it working together.
Yeah, thanks, Kristina. That's absolutely where we are right now. I think, this is our moment as a human species, actually, if you think about it. Can we be like the ants in a colony? Can we all come together in aggregate and do something unbelievable to pave the way towards sustainability? I have a huge hope that we can. We've had examples before. For example, with the ozone layer, if you recall, that was kind of a shocker, but we were able to get together. Now, that was a much smaller and less complicated issue than the ones facing us today, but it does give us hope. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much to both Kristina and Bill for shedding insights on such large organizations that can make huge impact on our journey towards a sustainability future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.